Dr. Mark Creech, you've been active in this battle with the Christian Action League here in North Carolina, leading that organization faithfully. And, you know, one of the things I want you to respond to, just a couple of weeks ago, myself and actually a Catholic priest were on a radio program where the moderator in that program and was questioning us, basically said, you know, guys, it's okay for you to say whatever you want to say from your pulpit to your people. But the truth of the matter is, your churches don't pay any taxes. And so what right do you have to take it outside of your church to somehow share these positions? I mean, it was ludicrous, because I did share with you last time I checked, I was paying a pretty hefty tax bill in Charlotte, in North Carolina, and to the IRS. But I frame it in this: how do you think we should be responding to activists who are arguing that Christians just need to keep these views private because legalizing same-sex marriage has nothing to do with religious marriage? How would you respond to those activists?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Harris. I would respond by saying that Christians are hardly obligated to have private views about something as public as marriage. Marriage is not simply a personal or a private matter. It has a vital and a very public purpose. And the lifelong, faithful, monogamous union of a man and wife provides a benefit to society that no other relationship possibly can. And there are mountains of social science research that demonstrates to us that the well-being of children, the emotional and physical health of adults, and even the state of our workforce are all tethered in some way to the existence of stable one-man and one-woman marriages and families. And this is the reason that the government has an interest in the institution of marriage in the first place. Our founding fathers stated at the end of the Declaration of Independence that they mutually pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to give all people in the American Republic the opportunity to fully engage in the formation of public policy. And we know that they indeed paid a high price to give us that right, because the British Crown went out of their way to aim their destruction at these so-called traitors. In his Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln referred to those of every age in American history who gave the last full measure of devotion, he said, to sustain and protect a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So I suggest to you that in addition to the command of Christ that Christians be salt and light, citizen Christians are derelict in their duty to God and their country if they embrace criticisms or admonishments that they should withdraw from the political process regarding any social issue. In essence, the question, as it's been framed, I think is rooted in the all too common objection that the Marriage Protection Amendment would be a violation of the separation of church and state, and that it somehow imposes a religious bias into law. You know, even if we were to accept the erroneous invented claim that the Constitution requires that there be no religious influence on our laws, opposition to same-sex marriage would still not be unconstitutional. Churches in the Bible also teach many other things than that marriage is between a man and a woman. Murder, rape, and child abuse are also taught to be wrong, but we don't say laws prohibiting such behavior are a violation of the separation of church and state. The fact is, if our government could never pass laws consistent with church or biblical teachings, then all of our criminal laws would have to be overturned as unconstitutional, because every one of them in some way is consistent with at least one of the 10 Commandments. Moreover, there are churches that are on both sides of this issue. There are, unfortunately, a number of churches, small as they may be, that erroneously support same-sex marriage. So if we are to hold to a strict separation of church and state, then churches who argue for same-sex marriage shouldn't be a part of this dialogue either. Unfortunately, however, gay advocacy groups like to have it both ways, arguing for the separation of church and state, but then recruiting or embracing churches that lobby government bodies to approve same-sex marriage. You know, I've been lobbying in the North Carolina General Assembly now for 13 years, and one time when I was lobbying against a certain lawmaker's bill and having some success, a certain senator pulled me aside in the hall and he angrily said to me, "Reverend, when are people like you going to realize you can't legislate morality?" And I remember responding by saying, "Senator, may I suggest to you that you can't legislate anything but morality? All legislation," I said, "is the codification of some moral premise. It's the means by which as a culture we say this is right and this is wrong, and that there's such a moral consensus regarding said matter that we've drawn parameters and declared that if you violate those parameters, we're either going to penalize you, fine you, we may even throw you in jail. So the real question," I said, "Senator, is whose morality are we legislating?" I want to tell you folks something. For thousands of years, we have legislated a truth, not based in the Bible alone, but also demonstrated by the design of our physical bodies and the laws of nature, that men were made for women and vice versa, and that marriage between one man and one woman benefits in exceedingly positive ways both sexes, our children, our economy, and the culture as a whole. And now, in recent years, homosexual activists, long critical of Christian conservatives for trying to legislate their morality, are trying to legislate their own in the form of same-sex marriage. And their arguments in no way match in import, by reason or research, the superiority of the moral arguments for the way marriage as one man and one woman has served the public good. Marriage, mind you, is a public institution that affects life on every level, whether you're religious or irreligious. And so I would suggest that Christian conservatives have the right, as well as the duty, to speak out.